The man standing beside the Donington Park fence had been laughing since Friday. He wore a Williams cap, blue and white, pulled low against the English drizzle, and he had been saying the same thing to anyone who would listen. He said it to the marshals. He said it to the strangers pressed against the barrier beside him. He said it to himself, between sips of bitter tea gone cold in a plastic cup. He said, "Senna prays for rain." Can you imagine? A grown man, a champion, talking to the sky, and then he would laugh. That short, dismissive laugh that people use when they want others to feel small for believing in something larger than themselves. The date was April 11th, 1993, Easter Sunday, and the sky above Leicestershire was the color of old iron. If you have ever stood at a British circuit in early spring, you know that cold. It does not bite, it seeps. It comes up through the soles of your shoes and settles in your chest like a stone. The Williams fan stamped his feet on the wet grass, pulled his collar up, and kept laughing. He did not know that in 45 minutes, something was going to happen on this track that he would spend the rest of his life trying to explain. He did not know that the rain he was mocking Senna for praying about was already forming in the clouds above the Craner curves. He did not know that he was about to witness the single greatest lap in the history of motor racing. And if you think faith is just a word people use when they have run out of arguments, stay right here, because this story is about to change your mind. If stories like this one move you, subscribe to this channel. We will be here every week, waiting for you. To understand what happened at Donington that Sunday, you need to understand the position Ayrton Senna was in going into that race. The year was 1993, and the Formula One world was not kind to him. His McLaren MP4-8 was powered by a Ford engine, a customer unit, nothing close to the Renault V10 that Alain Prost and Damon Hill had strapped beneath them in the all-conquering Williams FW15C. The gap in raw power was brutal. Prost had qualified on pole position, 1.6 seconds faster than Senna. 1.6 seconds. In Formula One, that is not a gap between two cars. It is a gap between two different eras of technology. Senna had qualified fourth, behind Prost, behind Hill, behind Michael Schumacher in the Benetton Ford. Fourth place. For a three-time world champion, for the man many considered the greatest driver who had ever lived, fourth place on the grid felt like an insult wrapped in physics. Saturday had been dry. The sun had come out, and in the dry, the Williams machines were simply untouchable. Senna had been fastest in the wet on Friday, but Friday did not count. Senna had gone back to his motorhome that Saturday evening, and he had prayed. Not metaphorically, not as a figure of speech. He had opened his Bible, as he did before every difficult race, and he had prayed for rain. He had talked to the God he believed in the way some men talk to their engineer, with specificity and trust, with the certainty of a man who had driven at the edge of human possibility and found something there beyond himself. And at some point during the night, the weather system pressing down on the Midlands turned, and the rain began. Easter Sunday morning, Donington Park, April the 11th. The tarmac was dark and slick. 50,000 spectators huddled under umbrellas and ponchos in the grandstands and behind the fences, breathing air that tasted of wet earth and engine oil. The Williams fan near the fence watched the cars form up on the grid. Prost first, Hill second, Schumacher third, Senna fourth. He pointed at the McLaren, red and white in the gray light, and he laughed again. Even God cannot fix that engine. The lights came on. 5 red, 4, 3, 2, 1, out. What happened next has no adequate description in the English language. In the space of one lap, 4.8 kilometers of rain-soaked British tarmac, Ayrton Senna passed 4 cars, not 4 backmarkers. 4 drivers who together held 12 World Championship titles between them. He passed Karl Wendlinger through the Craner curves on a line so far from the dry racing line that it bordered on the impossible. He drew alongside Michael Schumacher on the outside of a wet, dipping corner and simply drove around him, foot pressed to the floor, as though the laws of friction had agreed to make a single exception for one afternoon in Leicestershire. He swept past Damon Hill at Coppice, the McLaren so much faster that Hill appeared to have stopped entirely. And then there was Alain Prost, the reigning world champion, the man who had signed a contract requiring that Senna not be his teammate because he feared him. Into the Melbourne hairpin, Senna braked later than any sensible man would brake, found the space that a dry racing line said did not exist, and came out of the corner in the lead. 1 lap, from 4th to 1st, in the rain, against machinery that should have made it mathematically impossible. Prost visited the pit lane 12 times that afternoon, setting a Formula One record. Senna stopped 3 times and never lost the lead. He lapped every single car in the field except the second-place finisher. For nearly 2 hours, in conditions rival drivers called among the worst they had ever raced in, Senna was not merely faster than the field. He was from a different dimension. His McLaren engineers watched his telemetry data from the pit wall in near silence, studying the smooth, almost impossibly gentle inputs to the steering wheel, the way he read the grip of the road a corner before he arrived at it, as though he could see through the spray to something the instruments had no unit to measure. There is a moment from Suzuka, October 1988, that those who were present never forgot. Senna had just taken his first world championship in damp, misting conditions. He crossed the finish line, both hands raised from the cockpit, the car steering between his knees at 150 miles per hour. His mechanics heard crying and laughter mixed together in sounds without a name. When he stopped the car, he sat very still for a long time. Then he told them quietly that he had seen God. The disbelievers had a ready word for that. Senna never used their word. He simply went back to the car. At Donington, as the final laps wound down and the rain thinned to a cold gray mist hanging over the circuit, the Williams fan near the fence had gone completely silent. He had not moved from his spot. He was watching the red and white McLaren slicing through the last S's, smooth and impossibly quick in the wet, and the laugh that had been on his face since Friday was gone. Something else had replaced it, something that happens to people when they witness something their mind cannot file into any existing category. It was not faith. He was not ready for that word yet, but he would carry what he saw. He would talk about it for years, the way people talk about things that confuse them long after the fact. He would say to his children, "I was there, right there at the fence, and I cannot explain what I saw." The truth is that Senna himself could not fully explain it either. He once said, with the disarming honesty that was his most dangerous quality, that he did not understand his own ability in the rain. He knew what he felt. He felt guided. He felt as though something beyond his hands and his nerve and his eyes was doing the navigating, that he was a channel for a current he could neither contain nor name. His grave in São Paulo carries the words he chose himself: "Nothing can separate me from the love of God." At Donington, with a slower car and the most powerful drivers on earth ahead of him, he drove those words into the wet tarmac of an English Easter morning and made them visible for 50,000 people standing in the cold rain. He made belief look like physics. He made faith look like a lap time. You are carrying something right now. A plan, a dream, a direction that the people around you have told you is too slow, too unlikely, the wrong car, the wrong grid position, the wrong conditions. Someone has laughed at you for it. Someone has said, "Even God cannot fix that engine." Remember this Sunday in April. Remember that Senna prayed for rain, and the rain was everything he needed. Remember that the worst conditions on the circuit were the exact conditions in which he was most fully himself. Whatever you are carrying, the road ahead is wet, and the grip is uncertain, and you are more capable than the telemetry suggests. Get back in the car. Now, if this story moved something in you, leave a like right now and subscribe so you never miss what we bring next. And drop one word in the comments. Just one word that tells us what Senna means to you. We will read every single one.